Hello, Gen Genies. It's me, Julie.
And Rich.
Before we get started today, we want to let you in on some exciting news. We have launched our new Patreon page for the podcast.
Woohoo! We are super excited about this new chapter for CutOff Jeans.
So, Patreon is a website where listeners like you can pledge a small monthly amount. We're talking only $5 or $10, guys, to support the podcast and help defray the costs of bringing you the show each week.
To be clear, CutOff Jeans will continue to be absolutely free. But to thank you for your support, we are going to offer our patrons some fun little extras.
Like early access to the podcast every week, where you'll get to hear the latest episode before it's released to the general public.
And why not make your friends jealous with exclusive patron-only CutOff Jeans swag?
Fancy. And here's something you guys have been asking for, and I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to host a monthly, hour-long, online Ask Me Anything session where patrons at the $10 level can literally ask me anything.
Anything? You're a brave woman, Julie.
You know, I know. I'm also going to give access to my blog, Are You My Father?, where I tell the story of my search, actually it's my life story basically, for my biological father in even more detail than I did on the podcast.
Wow, your blog was the original inspiration for CutOff Jeans, wasn't it?
It was.
Wow. Well, all patrons at any level will receive a shout out on the podcast along with our undying gratitude for your support.
Yep. You guys know that this show is a labor of love for me. It's something I'm very passionate about. It'd mean so much to me if you would consider supporting our work here on the podcast by going to patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast.
That's Patreon, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans podcast.
We'll add a link to it on the podcast and on the Facebook page. Thank you all, my Gen Genies.
And now, on with the show.
Woo!
Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip, hip, hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In CutOff Jeans.
Welcome to CutOff Jeans, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon-Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the co-host and producer of this podcast. Hey, Julie, welcome to our second season.
We're back!
I even thought about re-recording our little theme song. Like remember how the show Alice, every year, Linda Lavin
would have a new one?
re-recorded the same song.
And the Brady Bunch.
Yes, they did it a couple of times as well.
Yes,
but
they
Linda
did.
Lavin was known, I think it was in her contract that she was going to say.
That she got to sing it every year.
Yeah, and there's certain ones I like better. Like there's one that's really jazzy, she goes, pop-a-doo-pop.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were the TV show Alice, you would clearly be Alice. See, and I see myself more as like a Vera, but I think the world sees me as Mel.
No, you're Vera.
Yeah. I totally.
Yeah.
I wish.
Wait, who else was there? You think I'm Alice?
Well,
I guess I'm Alice in that kind of leading lady thing, but I think I'm actually really
Flo.
You know what? I'm a mixture of Flo and the other one, the little brunette.
What? That's Vera.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
No, I think you're more like a mixture of Alice and Flo, and I am a mixture between Vera and Mel.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
So weird.
I buy it.
I just want to do the thing with the straws. Remember how Vera at the beginning of every episode in the credits, she had all those straws and she would throw them up in the air like drinking straws? So,
truth be told, I don't specifically remember watching an entire episode of that ever.
We can no longer be friends.
I'm sorry. I know I did, but I don't have specific. I know that Christy McNichol's brother was her son. I do know that.
No, you're wrong.
Who was it?
It's Philip McKeon, and it was Nancy McKeon's brother. Nancy McKeon from Facts of Life. Her brother was Tommy, the son on Alice.
Oh my God! Then who was Jimmy McNichol? What was he on?
I couldn't tell you. I know Peter McNichol. He's an actor.
She had a brother named Jimmy McNichol, which literally looked like a male version of herself. They had the same face.
I have no idea. Now I'm going to have to look that up. But I will say I have revisited Alice on streaming, and it doesn't hold up. Yeah, it's not as funny.
It
And yet
does,
I
not
watched
much.
it every week for probably 8 years as a kid,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
Some things don't hold up. And I have to also tell you, I'm sitting here and Dina Striped Sand really misses you.
How's she doing?
She's doing okay. You know, when I remember to water her, she's, I'm bringing this in front of the camera. See,
Oh, she's bigger. She's grown.
yeah, she's grown. Yeah.
That's
But anyway,
impressive.
she's not the same without you, Julie. Her little Post-it note that I put on there with her name, so I remember that it's Dina Striped Sand, has blown away. I don't know where it is.
Oh, dear.
But not
Well, you
before
remembered.
leaving the mark on me. Then I remember that she is Dina Striped Sand.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm glad you said that because it took me maybe 3 seconds to know what you were talking about.
It's been a while since we've been in the same
all.
room, Julie.
Oh my God, I know.
You can't really tell, but my hair is getting really long in the front, and I don't know what to do about it.
And they've opened all the hair salons except for LA County.
I just need to find like a barber who will do it outside.
You know what? I went to my friend's house yesterday and cut his hair outside.
Really? Good for you.
In his backyard.
Yeah, because
So if you want, I'd be happy to do it for
I
you.
may take you up on that.
Okay.
Because I read this article in the LA Times about somebody who drove 600 miles to get a haircut, and I thought, that's ridiculous. Of course, this was like 2 weeks ago, and now I'm thinking,
It makes sense.
But it doesn't, though. Like, it's not, like a haircut is not worth putting your health in
please.
danger, but still.
No, just put it in a bun.
How are you, Julie?
I am well, I guess. I'm just, how are you? How are you hanging
I'm
in
doing
there?
okay. You know, I'm trying to keep busy with creative projects, writing. I'm doing a lot of writing, which is good.
Good.
I'm not making a dime, but it's still, I'm enjoying the writing process. I wrote my little 15-minute musical. That's all done.
Okay.
I wrote another song. I'm enjoying having the time to do creative things. It's keeping my head from thinking about how the world is and all the things that cause me anxiety. And when I don't have a project, then I'm much more anxious. So I really think that the idle hands are the devil's workshop.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I have been working so much, but at the same time, I don't have time for my family. And even just, I picked up a craft the other day and I felt so much better.
See?
I just I did something. I did my daughter graduates college on Sunday.
Oh, that's so exciting. Congratulations, Lily.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe it. And I'm just going to brag. She's graduating cum laude.
Wow.
And she won her senior thesis was a script, a movie screenplay.
Wow. And
she won a special writing award, like a prize for that.
That's incredible.
So I'm very proud.
So Julie, what's going on in DNA news?
Well, I want to talk first a little bit about Memorial Day.
Oh, okay.
If I may, because I have thoughts about it. 'Cause this was the first year. So you know that I work for the U.S. Army,
yes.
PCRB, in work towards finding families so that we can repatriate people who were soldiers who were killed in this case, World War II.
A very honorable job.
Thank you so much. I love it. Most of the soldiers that I'm working for died in Canabachuan, I think. Canabachuan, I think is what it's called.
Where is that? It sounds like it's in Canada.
It's in the Philippines. It's in the Philippines. It's actually, there was a very famous, and I've known about this since I started working, but I never really researched it, and it put a whole new color on it for me.
Okay.
Because it was the largest capture of American and Filipino POWs ever. And it happened right after the war started in April of 1942. And there was a battle that went on for a few weeks, and then eventually they were overtaken by the Japanese, and the Japanese seized all of these soldiers, both American and Filipino, and they did what was called the Bataan Death March,
oh, yes.
in which they walked, I think, 3 days with no food or water.
Horrific.
yes, to what was called Camp O'Donnell, which is where most of them are buried. And on Friday, I watched a few documentaries about it and some interviews with some of the survivors. And it was a hellscape. I can't believe what these men went through. And just the senseless killings and the torture. And it was actually deemed a Japanese war crime.
There's I believe there's at least one movie.
Yes,
right? Is there one called Baton or something? Or
probably
about this.
There are a couple scripted movies. I didn't get to those, but there's a lot of what do you call it?
Documentaries,
raw footage.
Yes,
yeah, and documentaries, but also just raw footage that was taken, like when they were. Mostly when they were liberated, but also some of the march, and it's chilling.
So tell me, are you finding relatives of those people from this march?
Yes.
Wow.
The thing is, we'll never know for sure whether they died. Wait, I have it written down. There are mixed numbers for how many people died on the actual march. They say it's between 5,000 and 18,000 Filipinos and 500 and 650 Americans that actually died on the march. And that is from just like, if they collapsed, they were shot. If they fell out of line, they were shot. It was, and then they had to carry them, the soldiers, their comrades had to carry them.
Wow.
In makeshift stretchers all the way on the march. So most of when I received my paperwork, there's usually something that says how they died, and it's usually malaria or malnutrition.
Okay.
And I don't know if they just assumed that. I know that the conditions were horrible. But I'm not sure if any of them, maybe if they haven't repatriated them yet, they'll discover that they were shot.
So tell me then, regarding Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So what did this mean for you now that you have something personal like that, something tangible that you're working?
Both my fathers were military. Yeah. My dad in the 50s, I guess. So that was Korea. But he didn't actually
see combat.
In action, right. And then my biological father was in the Navy for several years. He didn't see combat either. He did, however, die as a direct result of being in Australian Navy submarines because of the he died of mesothelioma. So it was a direct reaction from what is that? You know, the thing that is illegal now that causes lung cancer.
Cigarette smoking? I don't know.
No, the stuff that they used to use in buildings.
Asbestos?
Yes, asbestos. Okay. They were riddled with asbestos.
Listeners, forgive Julie. She's doing as best as she can.
Oh, there it is, everybody.
We're back.
Lord, why couldn't I think of that stupid word? But he got mesothelioma, and actually the vast majority of his crew members or fellow crewmates also. And
so you were thinking about them on Memorial Day as well as all.
Well, I was thinking about them, but more so, I will say, just because this is so fresh in my mind, is just these men. I can put faces to them and what they went through,
right.
And talking to their families, and a lot of the time, especially the older ones, I have to reach out to the next of kin, and some of them are quite old and were alive when. During the war. Mm-hmm. And so they're the ones who tell me, oh yeah, he did that march, and they know everything.
Wow.
And also what's really interesting is that I've had two separate cases in the last month. It's the same family name. And they're from New Mexico. There was a huge New Mexico contingency in Baton, by the way.
Okay.
Which is amazing. The first case discovered that there was a brother with him that they told me, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll make a note of that so that because they're collecting DNA, they'll have identical DNA.
Right.
But then the second one I got, I was like, oh, this must be the brother because it had the same name. Nope, completely different family. But he also had a brother who died in the same region. He was on what was called the hell ships, which is where they would just store people.
Ugh.
And they would just die.
Yeah. War is hell.
War is hell.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, I just being able to tell these stories, and I also feel more informed when I do talk to the families now because a huge number of people still think it's a hoax and still think that I'm just trying to trick them into doing something. I don't know what that would be, but
But you're on assignment from the military, right? I mean.
Exactly. But I send out a letter that's a form letter from the military that I personalize and that gives links to the program and all this stuff. But, older people don't use the internet, so that's a problem.
I see.
And also people are just so suspicious.
Sure.
And even though it looks... we get emails all the time that look like they came from our bank that didn't come from our bank.
So I get it. I understand. And I think if I were to get something from the military that said it was from the military, I would be looking at it like, what's this about? Even though my dad was a Marine, so
right.
it very well could be, although my dad didn't die in the service.
Right.
But still, I think my first thought would also be, what the hell is this? Who's doing this scam? And I think that's more a sign of our current times that we live in.
Absolutely.
That we're a lot more jaded.
Right.
And probably rightfully so.
and when I call them, it's from my personal phone. So they don't recognize, they're like, I don't know anybody in LA.
Right.
So that's as I tell them all the time, is the hardest part of my job is not the research. It's just getting people to talk to me.
Yeah, sure.
But it's very rewarding and I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful, especially at this time that I do have some work. So.
It's funny because we talk about generalizations like, in that war and all of those dead, but every one of those people had families and they were all leaving someone behind, Yep. Did you see the cover of the New York Times on Sunday? It published 1,000 names of people who died of COVID-19 in the United States this year. And
did you say 1,000 or 100,000?
They only printed 1,000 names, but the headline said, as we approach 100,000 deaths. And even with the tiny print they used all through that front page, that was still only 1,000 of the 100,000.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was all of them.
The story behind it is the same. The lesson is that they're all leaving someone behind and that they were all people.
And they're all human beings.
Exactly.
Yep.
My goodness. Well, good for you for doing this work, Julie. Even though it's hard, it must feel good to your soul.
It does.
To be doing something that even if people don't want to talk to you at first, that you're doing something that's positive.
And at all. Sometimes I have to hand in a report saying they don't believe me. Go ahead and try. Yeah. I have to try a certain amount of times and hope. And I like to think that I'm pretty good at convincing people. Yeah. But some people will just argue with me just for the sake of arguing, which is fascinating. Anyway. But I'm very thankful, and I would still like to thank all of our servicemen for their sacrifice and their service. Yeah.
Shall we take a break and come back and talk about DNA?
Yes, we shall.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review, or consider supporting us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/CutOff Jeans Podcast. Now back to Julie and me.
Okay, we're back.
Hello.
Hey, you know what happened last night?
What?
Cece Moore's new TV show, The Genetic Detective, aired on ABC.
And I saw that was coming on, and I probably should have watched it.
Probably should have. You missed it.
When I saw it advertised, I thought, Julie should be on that show.
Yeah, I should. No, I talked to Cece. I think she filmed it about a year ago, and then she didn't know when it. Last time I spoke to her in person, she didn't know when it was going to air. But then all of a sudden, they're like, "Hey, we have a slot." So I mentioned it on the Facebook page and asked for comments from some of our members
Okay.
to tell us what they thought. And they loved it. I'll read you a couple that I think was very interesting. And I'm just going to read some of the comments. Jonathan Malik, who is a former client of mine, actually said, "Watch this. All I could think of was you. You're amazing at your work," which is a lovely thing to say.
That is, and true. And it's also honest.
Well, that's nice. Okay. Yes. Tony Baldwin, who's actually a new member of the group, said, "I think the obvious question is, can anyone just help law enforcement with these cases?" Oh, so let me break it down for you, because I know you didn't watch it. These are the cases that Cece works on with Parabon. So they're the cold cases.
Yes.
And last night's was the first one that she solved, actually, that young couple in Seattle that was from Canada that went to Seattle overnight and were murdered 30-something years ago.
Okay. And
she solved it in a couple of days.
Wow.
So it just followed it through. And I have to say what was really great about it, and I knew she would be, because basically I learned everything I know really from Cece. So the way she breaks it down for the layman was really good. I still don't know how, if you've never heard of this at all before, if you're going to grasp it at first. But she did a really good job of explaining things and explaining, thinking outside the box and using social media and all that stuff that we do.
Okay.
So it was impressive. It was really fun to watch, and I'm really proud of her. So I hope she's happy with it.
That's great. Congratulations, Cece Moore, for having this show.
Yay, Cece. I'm really happy for her. So Tony Baldwin was asking, are they currently seeking support? The episode was really good. I'd have liked to hear from the families after they announced the arrest. I can go look it up, though. But they started the episode with an interview with Jay's parents, who was one of the kids. And those darn half relationships can be tricky. Yeah, that was interesting. And I'm glad she got into that. On this case, she had the first case. She had two separate matches that were around second cousins. There were around 200 Santa Morgans, which is ballpark second cousins.
Okay.
And so she built it, and as I have told everybody, you go all the way up and then out and then all the way down, and the goal is to connect both sides of those lines. Yes. And find where the connection is. Well, she found where the connection was, but the numbers didn't quite add up, which can be tricky, because now you're like, well, this is where they connect. Did they connect somewhere else too, which is a nightmare. But that's when you think about, well, gosh, maybe they only share half of the amount of DNA that they should for where they are. So then you go back and you look at the number of marriages parents and grandparents had, and that can explain the half relationships. So why the numbers would be lower.
I see.
Yeah. So, and that's what happened. So ultimately it made sense. And it's a reminder, because I have to do that a lot, that I'm like, okay, here they connect, but why is this, and this? There must have been another marriage here in order for me, because I can't pigeonhole it. I can't make it fit if it absolutely doesn't fit. I mean, there's such a thing as an outlier, absolutely, unusually low or unusually high matches. But you have to do your best to make it fit, and you can't hang your hat on something unless it makes sense.
That's so interesting, because human lives are complicated, complex. And you're looking at something that is just numbers based, right? Like it's how many centimorgans and whether this person was married. Not really. Right. We have to think about in the real world situation that yes, people have other relationships.
Absolutely.
That's why there are NPEs.
That's exactly, NPEs are the bane of my existence when it comes to finding biological families for people, because when initially it looks pretty straightforward, like they have second cousins or closer, and that's going to be pretty easy for me, unless those second cousins are also adopted or have an NPE that they didn't know about in their family.
Right.
Because now I can't use their tree to help me. because there's a whole other mystery.
Well, I mean, think about it. Like, if you were trying to find, I mean, the only reason we're able to find a lot of this stuff is because of records, right? Like records that are kept from marriage and death and all that. Imagine trying to find, like, I don't know, trace my dog Buddy's lineage. You know, like I know what his breed is, but like, imagine trying to find like his exact parents. Like, where the hell? Who the hell? There's no.
Yeah,
records.
I don't think that. Well,
because he's not purebred.
Yes, if he was a purebred, there would be.
Yes, that's the
interesting.
Thing, right?
Yeah,
think about it.
Yeah, they keep very good records at the AKC.
Oh, they have to, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing. It's sort of like royalty, right? Mm-hmm. And even as we know, we've discussed on this podcast, not all royalty is pure blood. If you look, you know,
well, and some of it is too pure,
right?
if you will.
Yeah.
Let me see. So, he was asking, so can we just ask, can we just see if can we offer support? I don't know. I've thought about that when I was not so busy. I've thought about just going to my local police station and saying, hey, do you have any DNA from cold cases that you might, I don't know what the legalities of that is.
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah. Because it is something you could possibly help out with.
Absolutely. I think it might, the need for it might, as depending on how the show goes, I think, because it's really a lot of people who watched that last night know about genetic genealogy now that didn't know before that. So, I think the higher profile, I think maybe the more we might be able to rely on this. Of course, we still have those ethical issues with GEDmatch and
also privacy issues. I understand
and
that.
Privacy issues. The biggest problem for me doing that is I don't have any luck with GEDmatch. I really don't. GEDmatch has never solved the case for me because the database is just not big enough and not specific enough. But Ancestry's database is so big, and you can't use a government-built DNA file, if that makes sense, to upload to Ancestry. It has to be a living person that that has approved that their DNA be uploaded, first of all.
Yeah.
And because that's, a lot of people are up in arms about that.
But I'm already, running with this and writing a TV show for you, Julie, like where you go around, you're like this, I don't want to say amateur because you're not an amateur, but I mean, just someone who isn't affiliated with a large company like Parabon, going off to local police stations around the country saying, hey, got a cold case. And every week it's like a little anthology series.
It's like the human version of the Littlest Hobo.
God. I was thinking a little bit more like Murder, She Wrote. And there'd be like, we could do some that are unscripted, where it's sort of reality TV, and the others we'd script, and like suddenly the killer finds out that Julie's on the trail, and suddenly she's in danger. And she's going to sing a new theme song every season.
Or every week.
We're going to write that in your contract, Julie.
Absolutely. You kidding me? Somebody asked, Chris Jeffrey asked if there's a CC equivalent in Australia. Who's doing that type of work in Australia? I don't know. I did make a note. I tagged CC and said, if she's reading this, and I tagged her, I said she'll know the answer probably.
Yeah, and if any of our listeners know, they can let us know through the Facebook group or email or all the ways that we ask you to contact us at the end of the episode.
Right. Absolutely. A couple people said that they heard my voice in this, and they were thinking of me the whole time, which is quite the compliment.
That's very flattering, yes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I assume nobody heard my voice in it.
Apparently not.
There was no innocent straight
she
man.
Didn't have a sidekick. A sidecar.
I prefer to be a sidecar than a sidekick.
Sure. So great job, Cece. It was thrilling to watch. Felt so mainstream, and was also very validating, I think, because a lot of the stuff that she explains, I'm like, oh yeah, I do that too. Okay, good. I'm not crazy.
Yeah, right.
So congratulations. Go ahead and post more thoughts on that, you guys. I don't think there's anyone who didn't like it.
Great.
Because why wouldn't you?
Keep watching.
Yes.
What did you say? It's on ABC?
It's on ABC on Tuesday nights, Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m.
Did you have TV Guide in Australia? TV Guide magazine?
No, we didn't have TV Guide magazine, but we had the TV Guide section in the newspaper.
Oh, okay. Well, there was a magazine that came every week
I know
to
that.
our house.
I did grow up here after I was 15.
But I remember like getting next week's TV Guide and searching through, and they would have like these little close-up boxes about some special that was going to be on, and like, oh, I've got to watch that,
Yes.
or when The Wizard of Oz was going to come on, you're like, oh my God, it was always around Easter, and I make sure I got to, because we didn't even have VCRs at the time, I got to watch it.
Right. Ooh, that reminds me, Funny Girl and Funny Lady were on, not simultaneously, but subsequently
back.
last night. Yes. So I started watching Funny Girl, but I fell asleep. But I had the presence of mind to set my DVR for Funny Lady.
Yeah.
Because it's one of I don't know, I haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't know if it holds up. But it is truly one of my favorite soundtracks of all time.
I will tell you from having seen it, not really recently, that the movie is not good. However, the soundtrack is amazing.
It's flawless, isn't it?
There's incredible music in it. Great songs, great vocal performances. She's
great
at her
arrangements,
peak.
if I recall.
Oh my God, her version of "If I Love Again" that she sings in bed with just the piano is so beautiful. I just got chills just with
you saying that. Yeah. Can I just say when all of the other girls my age were singing into a hairbrush in their bedroom, to pop stars.
Yeah.
I was singing the entire soundtrack of Funny Lady.
I could just see you in your bedroom with your hairbrush singing, "Come on, guys, let's hear it for me."
Oh, yeah. And then I staged my own version of How Lucky Can You Get? I mean, remember that got dark.
Yeah. So did you do like the little 1920s version first?
Yes. And then it turned into this really abstract,
Well,
I did that.
Listeners, if you want to just go to YouTube and listen to some of those songs from the Funny Lady soundtrack, they're really great. However, Funny Girl is a much better movie.
Yes.
On that note, let's take a break.
Shall we?
Thank you for listening to Cut Off Jeans with Julie Dixon Jackson and Richard Castle. You can support us by going to patreon.com/Cut Off Jeans podcast. Now, back to the program.
All right, we're back.
Hello.
It's Storytime.
Oh, I've missed Storytime, Julie.
I bet you have. All right, so this is Shane Bouel, who I spoke to a few months ago, and I finally got around to including him in the podcast. Shane is the biological son of Leslie Mitchell, who stopped by once before and told us our story. She was the one who went through a forced adoption, and Shane is her son, and he is going to tell us his version of the story, and he's Australian, so be prepared.
Looking forward to it. Let's listen.
Let's.
Hey, everybody. I have on the phone Shane Bouel from Australia. Hi, Shane.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm well. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me. Shane is the biological son of our friend Leslie Mitchell, who we heard from a few weeks ago, who, just to reiterate a little bit, that she went through a forced adoption, or she was forced to put up her child, who is Shane, for adoption. And I'm so happy we get to hear your part of this story, Shane.
Thank you.
Tell us about what it was like being an adoptee for you.
Okay.
Because it's different for all of us. So go ahead.
Look, my early childhood, I suppose, was quite happy. My adopted parents were pretty well off, so I didn't go without. And I guess I was a fairly happy child, but there was times where I was distant, and I've been speaking to my adoptive auntie and the rest of my family recently, and after what's going on, and she said to me, "Oh, look, you were always sort of distant, and you'd go and eat your lunch and then walk away and sit down under a tree somewhere, and you'd be on your own.
Yeah. So
and
you're a bit of an introvert.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Always.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah. So it's just,
did you always know that you were adopted?
yes. Always from an early age. I probably told when I was probably 3.
Okay.
4, something like that. So.
All right. And do you have any siblings?
Adoptive twin sisters, and they're a year and a half younger than me.
Okay. And they were also adopted?
No, they're biological. Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. To give you the full story, my adoptive mother is also a first mother. So she
really.
Yeah, she gave away her son at 16, I believe.
Okay.
After she had a massive car accident when she was younger.
Okay.
And I think double the trauma there, and then of course wanting to adopt, and I don't know the full story about whether it was an issue on her behalf or my father's behalf. I don't know who was or how it came about, but yeah, apparently they wanted to adopt, and they were waiting for a while.
Okay, so she was, because of the car accident, she was unable to have children. Is that? Or she thought she was unable to have children.
I don't know whether it was her. I don't know whether it was my father. I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't know the full story. But all I know is they wanted to adopt me, and I know that she gave up. So they were 26 or so when they adopted me.
Okay.
And 16 when she gave away her first baby.
Okay. And has she ever expressed any interest in finding that child?
Absolutely not.
Oh, interesting.
And that sort of set the tone for me, not able to express my thoughts and feelings and what I needed out of those relationships.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So is this something you were never able to talk to her about? Did you ask questions? And
of course. I mean, I asked probably 2 or 3 times throughout the first sort of 40 years or so.
Yeah. 2 or 3 times. Wow, I asked every day.
Yeah, well, I probably knew better,
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't allowed. It was a forbidden topic.
Oh, wow. Was it a secret? Was it something they wanted you to keep to yourself as well?
Adoption, no. I mean, I remember being, probably 5 or 6, and and they'd have people over at night, and I'd be in bed, and they'd come wake me up and go, "Oh, you can come out. We wanted you to meet these people," and they'd introduce me as their adoptive son.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. You kind of seemed weird at the time.
It did seem weird? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like I don't. It was like they were trying to score points or something,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Interesting, because I always find it interesting when famous people die and they talk about they're the survivors, and they always have to mention if a child is adopted that they're adopted.
Yeah.
Like why does that make them less of a survivor?
Yeah,
I think it's very strange. When did the first move happen or the big thing happen?
I guess they sat me down on my bed when I was younger and said, you're adopted, and I kind of scratched my head and said, well, what does that mean? And she tried to explain it like this. She said, when you have a pet or a dog, you're adopted, and then you look after that animal. You're adopted like a dog.
Oh,
and so I used to walk around saying I'm an adopted dog because I had no idea,
Yeah. Oh, wow. How clueless to just what a way to characterize it for a child and children are so literal. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when did you start searching?
Look, oddly enough, I didn't start searching until I was probably 26 after I had my first son.
Uh-huh.
Growing up, I had a pretty sort of emotional teenhood, I suppose. I mean, I was always thinking about my birth mother, and I had a couple of visions early on, about what she would look like, and and how she kind of felt, and I'm a very sort of emotional, connected person spiritually. So, and early on, I really didn't know how to trust that. You know what I mean? Because of the trauma that I've been through, and I couldn't speak to anyone about it. You know,
right?
So probably when I was probably about 19 or so, I had a clear vision, and it happened probably 2 or 3 other times. And after Leslie and I met, I mean, it was amazing, obviously. And
so
I saw photos of her.
Of what she looked like?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have the exact photo that was in my head.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So, and did those visions encourage you?
Yes, obviously.
Okay.
You know, I mean, what I growing up, you know, things were obviously went very well for me, but I just wasn't allowed to talk about my feelings. Yeah. So, and then sort of getting into primary school, secondary school, you know, growing up and getting a job and doing that sort of stuff. You know, I didn't go without. You know, I raced speedboats. I did a lot of skiing. You know, they really did look after me, which I appreciate. It's fantastic. And it's like sort of, I really didn't know how to appreciate or accept love or acknowledge love in relationships. So I was kind of looking for it in different areas and didn't really know what it was about. So obviously went and got married, and you know, and I was married for nearly 20 years, 18 years. We split up.
Oh wow!
With my first wife, and during that time, my son got brain cancer when he was 12.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so you know, that was an awful experience. He's recovered. He's not 100%, but he's got some mild issues that he's dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and he's always going to be on a pension. So,
right.
You know, I haven't seen him for a while, and I have a daughter that's 18. She's wonderful. She's very sort of eccentric, a little bit goth, and I love her. She's awesome.
Okay.
She's very distant, but I try to talk to her the best as I can. We have a very distant relationship, and I've come to accept that. But yeah, it's kind of weird.
Do you feel like you spoke about it was difficult to accept love and what it meant? Do you feel like you had a fear of abandonment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's what I'm the same way. Yeah. I finally, in, you know, my ripe old age, realized that, well, yeah, because even though I didn't feel abandoned as a child, it still wasn't right. It still didn't feel like I was where I was supposed to be. And as an adult, it's very hard. I keep everybody at arm's length. It's difficult to be vulnerable, I guess.
I know, and that's something that I'm trying to sort of work through now. I mean, after, you know, I went to boarding school, so I was at boarding school for high school for 5 years. So really didn't get to grow up at home through my teens, you know, and then leading into employment, those ideas and those ideologies and beliefs sort of affected my relationships with employers. And I just really didn't have a chance to connect emotionally to the world, even.
Do you have an adverse reaction to criticism?
I probably do, but
yeah.
I'm old enough now just to say, oh, what the hell, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of it too. I mean, I can take direction, but I was very thin-skinned when I was young. Because every little criticism felt like, they're going to send me back.
Well, I don't have a great relationship with authority.
Okay, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and even now, like I've written a few letters to our governments here, and you're just getting lip service. And I really just have I have a genuine disdain for ingenuine and self-serving people. You know?
Oh, me too.
So it's just not the way it should be done.
No.
You know, and people are in it for different reasons, you know, whatever it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Probably also there's the whole aspect of you being a part of a forced adoption, and that was apparently legal back then.
Apparently.
And so apparently people in authority thought that was okay. So why should you trust authority?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I really, and I've had that belief, I guess, subconsciously for a very long time.
Yeah. All right. So how did it come about that you and Leslie found each other?
Okay. So after my ex and I got divorced, which was probably 2 or so years after my son got cancer, my relationship with my adoptive parents sort of started to fall apart. They were blaming myself and her for him getting sick and all sorts of awful stuff.
Okay.
And it really was just falling apart rapidly from that point. And I had then got together with my now new wife, Tracy. She's wonderful. And they didn't approve of her at all. She's Tracy's a very independent woman, and my adopted mother saw that as a bit of a threat because she couldn't have the hold over her to get her to do what she wanted her to do.
Sure.
I think.
Yeah.
So leading up towards Leslie, I mean, Tracy and I were sitting on the couch one day and we were watching a show with an Australian celebrity here called Ando, and that was a show about getting people together, after adoption. And there was a number on the screen after the show, and I called it. So, and it put me through to an organisation called Jigsaw. And I spoke to Chris Mundy there at the time, but I'd already been through the whole rigmarole of finding my original birth certificate when I was 26 after my first son was born.
Right.
I'd gotten that and sort of tried on the phone. This is before the internet, and did all the phone book stuff and didn't find anything.
Did you go through the Adoption Act of 1984? Is that the? That's what I did, and I didn't get my birth certificate, strangely enough, but I got all of my documents that were in the baby's home that I was at.
Yes. So I got all mine.
And stuff.
I got all mine in '89. So when my first one was born. Yeah.
Okay.
And then sort of did all that and waited, and then picked it up again and did a few more phone calls, and then waited another couple of years. Did another push for it and couldn't find anything. And then after Tracy and I watched this show, we contacted them, and Chris came back probably within a day or so and said, "Oh, look, I'm 99% sure that I found her." So he went through and checked the voting rolls and Facebook and a few other things, and did a little bit of detective work. And he said, "Look, I'm pretty sure it's this lady here."
Did he have her name?
Yeah.
Where was? Oh, her name was on your birth certificate.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you already had that. And okay.
So it was the address was on my birth certificate was the place where she was boarded at.
Yep.
During my birth in Brisbane, but she was from Bundaberg, Queensland, which is further north.
Right.
So I did all the ring-arounds at that area, and it wasn't anywhere close to being in Bundaberg.
Oh, so you were calling all the Mitchells there?
Yes.
Okay, I did that too.
So, and in this case, it was Morley.
Yeah. Right.
Her maiden name is Morley. So I did all that, didn't find anything, and then Chris came back with her identity and put two and two together with her sister's maiden name on Facebook and the voting roll, etc., etc.
Yep.
And I said, "Look, I don't know what to do. Do I write the letter? Do you write the letter?" He said, "Well, it's up to you." So I said, "Look, give me 24 hours. I'll make the decision." So I called him back the next day and said, "Look, I'll make contact." My wife and I sat down and we wrote the letter, and I really didn't want to wait for the postal service to deliver it and then her to answer it and then write it back and then deliver it again.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So I bailed up Tracy and I said, okay, we're going to the hand deliver it today.
Oh my gosh.
So I got the news on the Friday. We hand delivered it on the Saturday, and it was up at Cleveland, halfway between the Gold Coast and Brisbane. And we were up there at probably 9:30 in the morning, and I got Tracy to walk it down the driveway, and I was out in the car on the street.
Gosh.
And she knocked on the door, and no one was home.
Oh, okay.
So she was just about to turn away and then walk back up towards the car when a car came down the driveway and kind of blocked her in, and it was a girl hopped out.
All right. Sorry about that cliffhanger.
Well, we'll hear it not next week, but the week after, correct?
Yes, the week after. So, guys, as you know, this is the 101st episode. We've done 100 weekly episodes. And during this time, the quarantine time, my husband has had no work because he's in the entertainment industry as well, just like Rich.
Shocking,
I know. But very luckily, I've been incredibly busy with my 2 jobs that involve a lot of time.
So we're going to do it every other week, correct?
Exactly. We're still going to do it. Absolutely.
We're still here. We're just going to make you wait a little longer and anticipate. Like me waiting for the TV guide every week to see if The Wizard of Oz was coming back on.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, that's the story, guys. Please, I know you understand this is a tough time for everybody. But we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here
every other week, and we look forward to being with you every other. When do we drop this? Sunday nights?
Yep.
Yes, or the Friday or Saturday for our Patreon people.
Friday night or Saturday usually.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
On that note, I am Richard Castle, and I'm happy to be back with you, Julie, and I'm happy to have our listeners back. You can follow me on the Twitter at Castle Songs, or you can go to my website, which looks like a relic from another time at this point because I was working as a musician at richardcastle.com.
And I'm Julie Dixon Jackson. You can find me on the Twitter at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. Find the podcast at CutOff Jeans Pod on the Twitter. Find the Facebook group, CutOff Jeans Podcast. You know what to do. And what else? Did I forget something?
I don't think so. I think the only thing you forgot is that at the end of every episode, Julie, we usually say what our catchphrase is.
It's been so long since I said it.
Just like Linda Lavin.
Oh, should I sing it differently, though?
Sing it differently.
The truth is in your jeans.